So the druid made the DM uncomfortable by asking to lick the Mind Flayer's toes again. So session's canceled. Welcome, everyone, to another fun edition of the Sessions Canceled podcast. I am, unfortunately, your host again. It's Matt. What's up? I'm here with the goons as always. Sam.
Matt, I have to, okay, look, I know we don't do video for these, but sometimes I wish we did because that made my face contort in a way that hasn't done in ages.
I'm glad.
So I just want y'all to know, Matt told me about that he was going to use that as the opener yesterday, and so I knew it was coming. Still funny. Still hilarious. Oh, shit.
Oh, fuck. And Isaiah.
I can't. I bring a fucking opener. I'm always laughing at stupid jokes.
Isaiah's dead. He's deceased.
And Josh.
Yep. Hello. I am here.
Holy fuck.
So, and like all my terrible jokes, they're connected with today's featured topic, which
I don't know about all. That's a bold statement.
A little bit which I feel like today, gentlemen, the last few weeks I've been really getting my mind really fixated on feats.
Why do you like feet so much, Matt?
Stop
talking about toesies.
We do not kink shame here at the Sessions Canceled podcast. If you're into feet, connoisseur, you like the Mind Flayer toesies, then good on you. You can.
Why are you like this? Like I'm the generation of the generation, but why the fuck are you like this?
No, hold on. But like, what do they look like?
This is some really chaotic energy.
If you scroll up, I've posted pictures of.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
They're not. It's not great. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Me and Matt had a bit of a discussion whether Mind Flayers even have toes, and there's not a lot of evidence, but it seems to be yes. But they're like weird webbed, like fingy reptile toes.
Right. You guys remember the Baldur's Gate 3 trailer where like the guy is turning into the Mind Flayer?
Yeah, the
it's basically his fingers elongate and fuse together. His toes do the same thing. So
extra toe.
Ceramorphosis is a fun time.
I don't have the words.
We're not talking about Mind Flayers today.
Oh god, thank God.
We just did.
Even though we did, we're gonna.
Just did.
Feats. Like, why are they good? Why are they cool? Sam, are feats cool?
They can be, depending on the feat.
Okay, great. Well, that was the episode, guys. I'm
we're
glad everyone.
Feet a lot in this episode, aren't we?
Unfortunately,
we are gonna.
I'm like a little disappointed. Sam, I'm a little disappointed you didn't just after that pause go, feet cool.
Yeah, I was building it up there for it.
I was kind of waiting, and then you just did it.
So the problem is that much like monsters, there are monster cool. But I feel like feats in 5th edition, at least, are
a mixed bag.
They are one of two things. They are a roleplay feat or the metagame feat.
Metagame?
You get one of the you don't get both. You get one. Like Sentinel. That's pretty top pick,
Oh, you mean there's feats that are like just mechanically optimal.
Yeah.
Or you take a feat to give your character extra flavor, like Chef. It's not mechanically optimal, but you do it because it's cool.
Right. I mean, it has a little bit of the mechanical benefit, like the little.
It has a benefit, but I think what Sam is saying is like there's the feats that you find in build guides on YouTube, and then there's the feats that are just like they're fun and cool, and they do all of the feats in the game give you something, but some are a little higher valued.
It's like actor can be useful, but you're probably not going to see as much use of it as you would see like Sentinel. It's the same thing with like Piercer, Crusher. Like, I like those feats because personally I think they should just be tied to the weapon in general, or perhaps fighter. But they're feats. They do a cool thing. They're not great because they require a little bit of extra finessing or a specific weapon type. And if your DM is a dirtbag and he doesn't give you the specific weapon that you need, then you're shit out of luck.
Y'all remember the theologian feat? Same.
No.
The what?
Oh, you don't remember theologian?
Elaborate.
It was in the UA Feats for Skills.
Oh, I
Your
love that
extensive
UA.
study of religion rewards you with the following benefits. You gain a +1 to your int to a max of 20. You gain proficiency in religion. If you already have it, you double it. You learn the thaumaturgy and detect evil and good spells, and you can cast that the actual detect evil and good once per day without using the spell slot. That's it.
Right.
Oh.
Well, so what they ended up doing with...
Are you saying that's bad, or...
It just doesn't do a whole lot.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
It's one of those. I took
fun.
this because it's fun and flavorful, not because it's optimal.
Right.
And
And they ended up
optimal by
turning
far,
that
by the way.
into... Oh, sorry. No.
No, I was gonna say I don't even really care about optimal, because there are some feats that I like that aren't optimal at all. They're just like cool to have.
That's what I mean. That's why I said there's the two categories. There's optimal, and then there's the I like this. This is great, but I like this. You know?
I totally get you. I just think that one's particularly funny because it just doesn't do a whole lot.
It's like you have the one barbarian. It's like, I know Polar Master is great, but I like Lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Cool.
one of the...
Well, a bad example, because Lucky's pretty strong.
Lucky is very strong.
I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna get into that.
I've used Lucky, and I never rolled higher than my original roll ever.
Yeah,
Matt,
but that's
that
just
just
you
sounds
being
like
shit.
you-
That's just you being
seriously.
an unlucky human being IRL. That doesn't mean the
True.
feat is bad. The feat actually,
Oh, I'm not-
some people ban the lucky feat because they
I'm not
find it
saying
so
it's-
aggravating.
Cowards.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just, just randomizer the feat. I love it.
One of my favorite feats personally is a fade away for gnomes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that one.
Your people are clever with a knack for illusion magic. You have learned a magic trick for fading away when you suffer harm. You gain the following benefits. Increase your dexterity or intelligence score by 1 to a max of 20, and immediately after you take damage, you can use your reaction to magically become invisible to the end of your next turn, or until you attack, deal damage, or force someone to make a saving throw. Once you use this ability, you can't do so again, so you finish a short or long rest. I love that one.
So it's just the meme where the guy throws up the peace sign and opacity fades away.
Hell yeah,
it's
dude.
the bug out button, and I love that shit.
That's pretty funny, actually. I didn't know about that one. That's a good one.
You know what? I'm just gonna say it. I fucking love racial feats. I think racial feats are awesome,
Same.
and we
I
should
like racial
have
feats.
a massively expanded racial feats handout or
nice.
something that comes out. Like
I agree.
You think they would have done that with the what's the new Mordenkainen book?
Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse.
Yeah, that thing. You figured they would have done that in that book, but they didn't.
As an aside, if it wasn't apparent, this is just gonna be all 5e all day long for this episode. So get your butts ready.
Well, because I do want to talk a little bit about because I do have some stuff from like a little bit of 3rd edition, but like also I have the 4E player handbook here, and I'm looking through a lot of the feats because I do have some questions I want to generally ask you guys. And mostly this topic kind of started for me with recently the Dragonlance revised UA Unearthed Arcana came out. And in that they did something really interesting where it's like, all right, so we're going to give people a free feat at level 1 and a free feat at level 4, but they were heavily curated lists.
Okay.
And that got me thinking about feats in general and kind of on this topic, but like, I figure we can go into that, a little later in the episode and just generally like, what kind of feats do you like in your games, or what's your favorite feats in D&D or 5e in general?
So,
favorite
just real
feats.
quick, I have not seen the Dragonlance not homebrew, UA stuff yet.
You don't need to.
So
Matt will explain
Right,
it. It's fine.
I can bring it up. And
I
can
skimmed
share
it
with you guys.
briefly, I think. It is worth pointing out though. Almost every single role-playing game I have seen that has even a little bit of an emphasis on combat has a version of feats in some capacity. They will call it different things and give it different names, but like so many games have the idea of feats. It's kind of crazy. It's a pretty universal thing.
Yeah.
Which I'll I'll let you start, Matt, but I'm sure I'll get into that at some point.
Right. Well, because again, most of my knowledge is just D&D in general.
Oh, I know. Don't you worry, Matt. I'll learn you some things. There's a lot going on.
The little bit I played Pathfinder, which, oh my God, like I have a list of like all the different Pathfinder feats and how they work.
I guess I'm just going to start. I'm just doing this. So the thing about Pathfinder feats is Pathfinder doesn't treat feats the way 5e treats feats. Pathfinder treats feats more like, this is going to be one of those situations where you say a word a lot and then it starts to sound stupid. So feats is going to sound real dumb by the end of this. Anyway.
Drink every time you hear the word feat.
Yeah, right. No, don't do that.
No.
You'll be dead.
You will die.
Don't do that. Yeah.
I don't care if it's water or alcohol, you will die.
Yeah. So
why is everyone's eyes all shining?
So Pathfinder, right? There's a couple layers I got to peel back here to make this point. So everyone buckle up. This might be like a 5-minute rant. Not a rant, but a thing. Okay. So every tabletop game has its like I don't have a word for this, but it's like primary bread and butter, like central mechanic that it's like, this is what we base all of our cool shit on, right? So, and some games focus on it more than others, but every game has that mechanic where it's like everything kind of comes back to this mechanical focus, right? So to give you an example, 5e, it's the class system. Everything feeds back towards the class system when you're dealing with like making, specifically when you're dealing with making characters, right? I'm mostly talking about this on the player side. Every game having this focus. Everything in 5e circles back to the class system, right? Like it all, at the end of the day, that is the focus of your character and what you've made. And within said class system is the idea of like features and level ups. So Pathfinder obviously also has the class system, but the bread and butter, like, there's a word they use in video games for this. It's like the showcase mechanic, I guess. That's the way I could put it. It's like, okay, in Metal Gear Rising, this mechanic was the cutting anything you want in any direction, right? There's always that one big mechanic in your game that's like, this is our thing. This is like our big selling point. Pathfinder, that's feats. Because the way Pathfinder treats feats is they're not like these big crazy abilities that you get every couple of levels to like jump your character into like a new echelon of like power or whatever. Feats are like intrinsic to the level up process. They're built into everything, and they're handled more like a talent tree than feats in 5e.
Also extremely important to think about before you take them.
Yeah, like, they're all about that build shit.
You do not base, what feat you're taking off of like the equipment you just got. No. You basically go back from level 20.
You plan ahead a little.
Like
at least a little bit.
It is extremely important in Pathfinder to plan.
So like it's that idea. So the reason there's so many feats in Pathfinder is because feats are they're not like they are in 5e. They're more like talent trees type things where they're little bumps here and there. They're little abilities you take along the way, and the game would like not really work without them. Whereas in 5e, feats are handled as like, this is a big cool power up you get every once in a while, but it is not intrinsically core to your character necessarily. Right? The thing that is intrinsically core to your character is your class features, not feats, but the features. And that becomes that's why it's like, to compare feats in D&D and Pathfinder as they are right now is not really a fair comparison, because although they have the same name, they are not handled the same. They're not treated the same in terms of design, is the point I'm getting at. Another example is Star Wars has feats, but they call them talents, and they are literally a talent tree that's part of your class, essentially. They don't call it a class. They call it a career.
Yes.
Right?
I
think so.
It's been a while since
I
been specialization.
To be honest.
Yeah. So that is sort of the feat equivalent in that game. And again, they're not like 5e. they're things you get along the way as you go, and they're sort of a slow and steady drip, and they're not big jumps, and they are intrinsic to your character. And then we have Vampire the Masquerade, to give another example, that has the disciplines, which are your vampire superpowers, but also essentially kind of like feats. And then Vampire also has advantages and flaws, which kind of get treated like a feat system too, in a way, right? Because some of the advantages and flaws are like, some of them are like, I have an NPC homie, but some of them are very specifically like, I have money for this thing, or like my character had the thing where I had the folkloric block where my character was afraid of crosses. That's essentially an anti-feat, right? And you don't have to take that.
But it's cool.
And it's fun. It gives you stuff. And then we have Stars Without Number, which I believe Stars Without Number straight up just... Oh, no, that's right. Stars Without Number calls them foci. And Stars Without Number, they're a little closer to 5e in that your foci are pretty big, like, ability bumps, but you get them on a pretty consistent basis. Like,
it's like the one that allows you to just not die.
Yeah. So one of my characters had an ability called Die Hard. I'm looking at the sheet right here. You're surprisingly hard to kill. You can survive injuries or bear under stress that would incapacitate a less determined hero. Level 1, you gain 2 maximum hit points per level. This bonus applies retroactively. You automatically stabilize if mortally wounded by anything smaller than a heavy weapon. So like you just get fucked up and you just like, I don't die.
It's just it's so strong.
It was a good ability. And it's also interesting because Stars Without Number has levels on their foci, so you can have I think most of them went up to either 2 or 3. So you would be like, I have the foci and I'm gonna double down on it and make it even better. And so you're it'd be like if you took Sharpshooter and then you took Sharpshooter at level 2 and instead of a plus 10 damage bonus, it became a plus 15 or something like that. It was that kind of idea.
I personally love the idea of upgraded like feats.
Yeah.
As long as there's a level requirement to them, because like obviously it can get very out of hand if it's like, I just like plus 15 damage to Sharpshooter at level 4. Like, you're not going to hit that often, but when you do though.
Yeah. I mean, it was very, I will say the way the foci worked in Stars Without Number was super cool and like very fun for my players to take. And it made level ups pretty interesting. Like, for example, Sam's character had some foci that made him like better at flying the spaceship and better at building things, you know? So like there was lots of real good, and I know better at building things. How is that useful? That's super useful in Stars Without Number. Not necessarily useful in something like D&D, but very useful in Stars.
Especially the way that I play my characters.
Yeah, I mean, Sam used it a lot of the time to like rig bombs and like blow up and like get into places. You know, like there was a lot of good tricks or like fix things that were out of commission, and then all of a sudden now it's a really helpful item. Like, there's a lot of good shit you can do with it. All that hoopla is basically just to point out that feats are handled in lots of different ways, and they might always have a different name, but it's a pretty universal concept, which is why I found it really weird when 5e first came out that they were afraid of feats. But they seem to have changed that a bit.
I mean, they were afraid of a lot of things with 5e because
that's true.
I mean, true. I kind of blame that on the reception of 4e, honestly.
Fair.
Like 4e was received very poorly. So when they released 5e, it definitely feels like they were like, oh man, we better not do the same thing. And like, I get it. I played 4e. It was our first adventure together, Josh. Our first.
If you want to hear about that, go listen to episode 1. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
I mean, I'd hope they'd listen to episode 1 before they got here.
I wouldn't assume.
I'd hope.
You just have that one listener who just skips every other episode.
I mean, I don't know about you guys.
Started from episode 2.
Look, I don't know about you guys, but when I find a new show, I will listen to the most recent episode to give them the benefit of the doubt that the most recent one is the best one. So that's kind of why I said that. But anyway.
Yeah.
That's a whole other.
I mean, I just try to listen to everything, honestly.
It depends on how long it's been going.
Yeah, that's fair. If it's been going on for like 300 episodes, it'll be like, all right, we'll go 10 episodes back, but not that far.
Anyway, Matt.
But we ain't at that point yet.
I don't know. Take it back. I stole the show from you.
No, that was good. Actually, I guess staying on the topic of 4th edition, one of the things that I really I really kind of like with 4th edition is I don't know, I kind of bounce my head back and forth on the prerequisites when it comes to feats, and it's like, should all feats have prerequisites? Should some only? Like, I don't.
So
I think some. My default answer there is definitely some.
Here's my 2 cents. If you're gonna have prerequisites for your feats, 1, make sure that they are attainable by most people unless it's a racial. 2, it depends on the system, because 5e, I don't think, other than like racial, is very well built to have those prerequisites, because there's not a whole lot of character building besides your first, like, you create the character and then you pick the feats and maybe spells.
Okay, but what about
that's about as far as you go.
Question, yes. What about the prerequisite? What about the prerequisites for things like Slasher, Crusher, and Piercer, where the prerequisite is essentially just to have a weapon that does that
falls
damage?
Under obtainable by all players.
Oh, okay, yeah, right, yes. I see what you're saying, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not anti-prerequisite. I don't think, I mean, there's certain things where it makes sense, right? Like...
Grappler's one of them.
Yeah, so like Grappler and Skulker have ability score prerequisites, which I'm fine with. I don't think I have a problem with that inherently. Because niche protection, I think, is important.
Yeah.
And also because I think working within constraints can often make for interesting character ideas. So,
yeah. I agree.
I will say something that was interesting is for the what the fuck was it called, Matt? The Heroes of Kryn. Yeah. That. The Heroes of Kryn thing. What was interesting is the feats actually did upgrade. There were upgraded versions of the Dragonlance specific feats, and the prerequisite was obviously you have to have the previous one. So those are interesting.
Yeah, Wizards they've been trying to do this recently, like with the Strixhaven book came out. It's the background that gives you this, Strixhaven initiate feat.
Yeah. And
then if you have the feat, you can take the next feat at level 4, which is, you get a mascot and a special friend and all that. And I remember listening to an interview with Jeremy Crawford saying this, like back in older editions, they used to have these feats that would stack and level up with each other. Yeah. But they don't want to go nuts with it. So I think they're only going to have like a 1st level feat and a 4th level feat and just leave it at that. Because they don't want to like bog it down with like, all right, so there's a 4th level feat and an 8th level feat and then a 12th level feat. I would,
that makes sense. I wouldn't, don't go overboard with it. 1 to 3 levels is fine, and every feat doesn't need it either. So I mean, that makes sense. Because it definitely can get out of hand if you start getting like stacks on stacks.
Yeah, but before that too, I wanted to just still on like the 4E kind of deal, because I like the idea that they have where it's like, so you have the regular feats, you have your racial feats, but then they also break it down to like class feats, so specific classes get specific feats. They also had it at different levels, so like heroic, paragon, and epic, where it's like these are the tiers of play. These feats are for this tier. These other ones are for the more higher level tiers. And then the epic feats are like, oh my god, it's I don't think 20th level was the max level in 4th edition, but just say epic is max level. I don't know if
I think class feats are acceptable because it allows for more like niche stuff, much like how. What's the word I'm looking for? Prestige classes were to, I mean, they're kind of covered in subclasses with 5th edition, but prestige classes in 3rd edition, how they make certain things very niche. Is like, I like the idea of a fighter being better at fightery things and being able to pick that or pick from a few of them that are outside of your subclass. Fighter's a whole, other topic that we're probably going to talk about very soon. Wink, wink, smile.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think class feats are bad, but then people might I mean, in 5th edition, certainly, people will confuse them with class features. And that's just bad time.
Right. Because before Tasha's came out, they played around with that UA, which is where now we have certain feats that give you warlock invocations or meta magics from sorcerers. And so it was taking certain class features and then turning it into a feat and just basically saying, all right, now anyone can have these specific features.
Yeah, so that's not what I mean by class feats.
No, I'm just saying in general, like
Sam's saying feats that only that class can get. Like, you can only get this feat if you are a fighter, then you get this feat. Like, that's it.
Yep.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, like, just for 5e, that's what they kind of, not exactly, but that's what they did.
I mean, they did do that in Tasha's. Yes, there's Eldritch Adept and Meta Magic Adept. The idea of...
Real quick. What do you guys think of those? Because I've seen arguments on both sides of that being like, this is awesome. I like that you get to dip into it a little bit if you want to try it without having to multi-class, or if you can't multi-class. And then there's people who are like, no, it destroys these protection. Where do you guys sort of sit on that? Because I've been thinking about that for a few minutes.
It definitely doesn't destroy niche protection. It doesn't give you that much.
No, because it doesn't make you as powerful as the class
Not even
would be
close.
normally, but it definitely allows you to pick the certain feature that you want from the class without having to multi-class.
Yeah, I mean, I fall in Sam?
I think it's okay. I don't think it's that bad. It doesn't like destroy any walls or anything. It's just like if you went to your neighbor and asked for a cup of sugar and they gave you a cup of sugar. You're not taking all of their sugar now, are you?
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of brevity, I'm just going to read out Eldritch Adept, just to kind of put us all on the same page, and for anyone listening who doesn't know what the ability does. Studying occult lore, you learn one Eldritch invocation option of your choice from the Warlock class. Your spellcasting ability for the invocation is Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. Choose when you select this feat. If the invocation has a prerequisite of any kind, you can choose that invocation only if you're a Warlock who meets that prerequisite. When you gain a level, you can replace the invocation with another class. When you gain a level, you can replace the invocation with another one from the Warlock class. So, the Eldritch Adept one, you get an invocation from the Warlock spell list, or from the Warlock's invocation list. That is very small and not a huge deal, and I think totally fine to let a wizard take the invocation where they can cast False Life at will or whatever, shit like that, right? Because here's the thing. So as far as the niche protection goes, you're only getting one little thing from the class. That's not that big of a deal. Also, and it lets you, like you said, Isaiah, it lets you dip into the other class a little bit without having to multi-class. And also, a lot of the crazier Eldritch invocations, you have to be a Warlock to have them because you have to have the prerequisite, right? Like, I can't take the prerequisite that lets my Find Familiar attack with a bonus action and become tougher and all that, that Pact of the Chain one. I can't take that because it literally says prerequisite Pact of the Chain, right? So you can't even take the really crazy ones that make a Warlock really a Warlock anyway. So it's not dipping that hard into the niche situation. So yeah, I think they're cool. They're good to dip in. Also, it's if you're doing, or if you get the Meta Magic Adept, right? You're like, oh, I'm a wizard, but the reason I'm a wizard is because my dad was a dragon and my dad taught me magic, but I have a little bit of that dragony in me. So I can kind of modify my magic because I'm slightly more magical than normal. So you take Meta Magic Object to reflect that flavor. That's fine. It just gives you some more bits to play around with. Honestly, if anything, I would kind of like it if those feats gave you a little bit more than they do right now. So, yeah.
Well, because I was thinking, what would you guys think of sort of upgraded versions of those? So it's what if, you could do
Adept into veteran or what would it be? Adept into trained or something like that?
Sort of, but what if at some point it's feat is, it's a 12th level feat for Mystic Arcana? And then it's you have to be, you need total levels of 12. You need maybe a stat requirement, and then you could take a higher class ability
I don't know. I don't think you want to go too high with, because when you get into the higher levels in particular, that's really when a class has like some very strong like identifying stuff about them. So I don't know if I'd want to like take Mystic Arcanum and give it to another class. That's a little like, it's not
right.
But what I think might be interesting is if you had Metamagic Adept, Metamagic Trained, and then like Metamagic Master, and it upgrades that particular feat a little bit. I think that might be interesting. So, because the Metamagic Adept one gets you 2 sorcery metamagics and 2 sorcery points. So what if you go, now I'm Metamagic Trained, and you get like 4 sorcery points, and then when you become Metamagic Master, you get like 6 sorcery points. You know, just so you could kind of like, yeah, it's like a little mini multi-class, I guess.
Right. And then if you just want to go straight sorcerer and take the feat, then you're just
or you can double
sorcerer.
down. Right, you can double. That's the other thing. Which unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of people are going to use this to just double down. Which is like,
that's me. I did that.
No, yeah, 100%. I would absolutely do that.
I did that with the Warlock one, and I'm like, yeah, it's an extra invocation.
Yeah, I'm split. I don't know. Is that a bad thing?
No, I don't think so at all. I think like if you're doing, especially if you're doing like Battle Master, it's like I just want all the maneuvers. I don't want to have to pick. I just want them all. And then you're like, all right, well, you can. It's like you can have them all. You're just gonna have to burn like a very limited resource to get them all. And the player's like, hell yeah, I'm doing that. Awesome. Also, but that kind of leads into something that I was thinking about.
Hold on. Sam, are you in that camp on that one?
I think doubling down is great, honestly, because it allows a class to really really excel at the thing the class does. Because, you know, if we're gonna have the ability to kind of dip without having to multi-class, a person who doesn't multi-class should be able to go even harder in their class with these feats, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. My initial thought was no, don't allow people to double down, but yeah, I guess you're right. I guess there is kind of a reason. Now that especially because now that I'm thinking about it, oh yeah, I could take Metamagic Adept on Haven and get more Sorcerer Metamagics, which are the best part of Sorcerer. Yeah. So yeah, I guess you have a point there.
I just wish there was one for monks. Like, I feel bad.
What would you give?
Monks kind of need more key.
Oh.
Yeah, if you give you key to maybe do like flurry of blows, or maybe it gives you like a, you know, maybe you could like use a key to do. That'd be kind of. I think the problem is that one's kind of hard now that I think about it, because it's like you don't want to give them just like the martial arts, but not like the martial arts in terms of combat, but like the cunning action aspect of martial arts,
right?
Which is, you know, the less interesting version of that thing. But then you can't give them 2 attacks as a bonus action, because they can't make 1 attack as a bonus action with an arm strike. Right. So I agree. I think there should be one for monk, but I don't know how they'd be able to do that without like drastically revamping the way that combat works in certain aspects.
Yeah, what would that look like? Because you can't just say this gives you more key points, because then only monks could take it, and that defeats the point. So yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. I don't know what you would do with that one. Interesting thought. I don't know how it would work.
What else you got for us, Matt?
Just gives you Stunning Strike.
Just Stunning Strike. Well, actually, I was gonna say you had a thought before Isaiah did.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts about giving feats as like downtime stuff?
You've brought this up to me multiple times, and I'm so torn on it.
I think you should have 100% be able to do it.
So, I feel like it depends on the amount of downtime. Because it
has to be hard, so right?
It would have to be it would have to be something like you need to find a trainer, first of all. Second of all, it should either be the length of training a skill, so you have proficiency in it, or armor or whatever, or double it, because it shouldn't just be given so freely that you just have it, but it should also be attainable.
Double what?
Double the length of the training it takes, or the time it takes to train for a proficiency, which is 10 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on
the trainer thing. Go on, Matt.
No, I was just gonna say I'm mixed on it because like because I think we've had this like offline conversation about it where it's like, you know, feats as rewards instead of like magic items and stuff, like that could be cool. Or like what's his name on YouTube, the DM coach, he does these things called like bonus level up perks. And so when a player like levels up, he'll give them like a new basically like a mini feat type of deal. And those are cool. And I feel like you, if you want to be like really nice to your players, or you just are a player specifically, like I can't, you know, they tell you about their build and they're like, I can't wait to get this one feat, but I don't know, it conflicts with the other things, and then they do something really cool in game, and then as a DM you're just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll just reward you the feat. You know, so I think it's cool, but downtime training for it, I don't know why, but I'm kind of mixed on that. I can't put it into a word where it's like, if I just train really hard, I don't know what's a good example of like a weird one with feat. I'll have a lot of health because I'm tough now, and you're like, all right.
Well, yeah, I mean, that does make sense, right? Like if you want to.
Actually, hold on, Finn, go ahead. I have a couple of things, but go ahead.
Because I was going to say, like, specifically for some of them, like, you can make a very good argument that like sharpshooter could take you like 6 months or like 3 months of like nonstop training, right? Because what all sharpshooter is the ability to get more, is in flavor, it's the ability to get more accurate shots on a dime, right? Like you don't have the time to like, you don't have to worry about being like, okay, I gotta line this shot up, so you can make it, just should aim for the eye. Sharpshooter is basically like you're just trusting the bow to do the work. Or sorry, you're doing more than just trusting the bow to do the work. Like you're setting your pace and all that. Same thing for like magic initiate, right? Like I guess the idea of why you could argue that magic initiate is something that you could theoretically do alone is you're just doing cantrips, right? Like the cantrips are supposed to be easy tricks that every wizard knows. So if it's the equivalent of like teaching yourself a magic 101 course. And you can only do it once a day because maybe you don't have mana or access to the weave or whatever you want to use for your magic system.
Yeah, I ran out of blue juice.
Yeah.
No, not the blue juice.
So I got you, Isaiah. I'm about to hit you with a couple. Okay. Right? So here's the thing. Yeah. So, all right. Problem number one. Yeah. I feel like if you're going to get a feat from downtime stuff, it needs to take a while. And I think it needs to be fairly costly because level ups, right? Because the standard way to get a feat at the moment, right? Because there is no rule for feats outside of leveling up. The standard rule is I level up and I am foregoing something to get this feat, and I'm only getting it every couple of levels. So that's a pretty big time investment. So if you're going to say, all right, we're going to ignore the level up time investment, there has to be some other pretty hefty investment to do it on downtime, right? You can't just be like, all right, you trained for a week, now you have the tough feat. Like that's like, you know, you can't hand it out like candy, right? Because that's just going to get silly for a number of reasons. So that's problem number one. And Sam had a good point. There is the rules for training to get to learn a language or a tool proficiency. So you could modify those. The rule for that by default is, like Sam said, it's 10 work weeks and then it's 25 gold per work week. So 250 gold if you want to like learn how to use lockpicking tool, thieves tools. Okay, so maybe for a feat, I would say 500 gold and 10 weeks or something like that. Or maybe I would just make it 20 weeks and keep the price the same, something like that. So there's that. The next thing is the training, the idea of training for some of the, you're right, Isaiah, for stuff like sharpshooter makes perfect sense. For stuff like chef makes perfect sense. I just cook like an animal for 10 weeks and now I'm just a beast at cook. Makes perfect sense. Fey touched, however, when you get into some of them, they get a little weird because Fey touched is your exposure to the Feywild's magic has changed you. That's not really a thing you could train. Right. There's also what's it called? Shadow touch, which is the Shadowfell's magic has changed you. There's things like the telekinetic one, telekinetic and telepathic. Those are just, you just have the force essentially, so some of them, the idea of training is a little iffy. And then also, do you allow training for the racial feats? right? That's another weird thing, because like
I think it depends on the racial trait at that point. Feat, not trait.
Like wood elf magic, right? Can you just learn wood elf magic? Maybe, if you're just doing it at your table, this is not as big of a deal because you can kind of adjudicate these sort of things on the fly at your personal table. But if we're talking about wizards implementing that as an official rule, they're going to have to take into account a lot of shit like this,
They are, yeah. I also think like you can, because we do have
the lucky feat. How do you train the lucky feat?
Well, yeah, I mean that's fair.
I'm not against it wholeheartedly, but there's some roadblocks.
There are, but I think it's also worth bringing up, and this is not really a training thing, nor this is a on downtime situation, but it is worth noting that like I think a pretty easy way to sort of bring this over would be to just like jury rig the existing epic boon thing that they talk about in the DMG and just scale it down. Because okay, do you want to take over then?
Wait, hold on. Quick question though. I haven't looked at the Oh, we're losing Sam to the internet goblins.
We are, yeah. That's why I was kind of hesitant to say anything.
What? You can clarify this for me, Isaiah. The epic boon shit is my understanding was epic boons are essentially handed out as big story moment rewards at higher levels.
Yes.
Okay, so are you saying give players feats for like big story things? Is that what you're getting at?
You could, right? You could be like, oh, the what's a good feat? We'll do like shadow touch, right? Like if you're champion of the Raven Queen and you do something cool for the Raven Queen and she shows up and bonks you on the snoot and it's like shadow touched, congrats bud, and you're like, oh cool, I can just do Shadowfell shit now, sick,
Yeah.
Or
actually,
like
I have an example from my game. My players, they were hired by a wizard to go through this dungeon. They went through the dungeon, and afterwards he rewarded them with the magic initiate feat. And he even told them like, you don't have to pick wizard, because I think that's one of the options with magic initiate, but they just got the feat for free for completing the dungeon and everything. And all the players were like, oh sick, extra spells, nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Here's what I'll say on the idea of just like handing out stuff like that, handing out anything as a big story reward. I'm basically willing to do literally anything as a story reward. That kind of thing, like I don't even consider that it's like not even a concern in my head to be like, oh, should I hand this out for the story? I don't know if if it makes sense to hand it out in the story, I'm gonna do it no matter what. I don't give a shit. The kind of things that I'm talking, the thing we were talking about is the idea of handing out a mechanical reward for mechanical actions. That's where I start being like, okay, does this make sense? How are we gonna do this? What kind of things do we need in place? But yeah, if it's like you go to the Shadowfell, you have a crazy scene where the Raven Queen takes you as her chosen, and you have the Shadow Touch feat, I'm 100% fine with doing that. That is totally cool. Like, go to town on that kind of shit. I mean, yeah, doing it in that fashion. But what you're talking about, Isaiah, where you're saying training feats on downtime, that is mechanical thing with mechanical reward. That is a situation where I want to like think about it a little bit more. You know what I mean? So I'm not anti the concept, but yeah, I think I'm a little more hesitant in that regard.
Fair enough. I mean, for me personally, I've seen it be done, and to be fair, the parties that I've been in that have done it do not go buck wild and try to get feats every 2 seconds. Like there's this sort of understanding of like, I am letting you do this. Be very careful about how you approach this, because I can just take this feature away. And it's pretty much always gone pretty well. People like right before like a big encounter, someone's like, oh, can I try to learn magic initiate in case I need to like cast prestidigitation to wipe the blood off myself if we're like doing a heist or something like that. And then The GM has either been like, okay, like roll to see if you find a teacher, roll to see if they'll even try to teach you. Do you have the money to pay for it? Are you willing to take points of exhaustion? And you sort of have like this contractual back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's worked really well.
So how would you do it in your game, Isaiah, if a player's like, all right, we've got a certain amount of downtime, there's nothing else going on, I want to learn this feat, I want to do it, what do I got to do? How do you...
It's funny that you say that, because I do actually do it in my game. Okay. So in my game, I basically have to say this every time I bring up my game. My game is not standard 5e. It's based in the post-apocalypse, and there's no magic. So I have invented these things for my game called learner's manuals, they're kind of like the tomes, I think they're called, the magic item, where it's like, if you read this tome for X amount of time, you gain like an ASI. It's the same thing. It's a one-use item, and then the book, for whatever reason, just turns to dust, and you can learn a feat. And the players can find them or buy them or, trade for them, whatever you want, and then they get that feat if they train enough.
It reminds me of the Fallout magazines that you would find all over. Yeah, yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I thought you were going to say it reminds me of The Hunt.
Nice. Good reference.
Jolly reference.
So you hand them out as like items essentially, and then they have to spend some time with said item.
Yes.
Okay, that's not a bad way to do it. Have you done it with, you said ASIs, but have you done it with straight up feats?
Well, that's what I was saying, is that the way that the magic item is done in 5e is that it's ASIs, but I do it with feats.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that for some reason.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the skill books.
Yeah. So, I have done it, and it does work. But if I was going to do it in a standard fashion, despite what I said about not necessarily needing a trainer, I would say you don't need a trainer for most feats. Obviously, there are some caveats like lucky. But if you get a trainer and you're willing to fork out some extra cash, you can expedite the process. That's how I would do it. But obviously, because I agree, feats can be very powerful. You obviously can't make it easy, right? Like you can't make it fucking ridiculously hard, but it can't be like I'd walk up to Jerry the battle master and he's gonna teach me some maneuvers in the next 2 days. It's like no, that's not how it's gonna work.
So you're saying 20 weeks to learn the tough feat, 10 weeks if you fork over 200 gold and learn from the bar brawler Bob.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And potentially faster if you, based on like some rolls that you do. Right, if it's like, okay, we're gonna make this a basic skill check. If you fail all 3 times, it's gonna take you the full time, even with the extra money you paid. If you can get at least 2 successes before you get to 3 failures, then you might get it'll be like the normal amount. Or if you do it completely, it'll be the normal amount. If you natural 20 in one of your rolls, you could probably cut it in half by another third.
So you speak of the countdown clocks.
Yes.
Yes.
So you could potentially reduce it from 20 weeks to 7 weeks, which, that would be fantastic for the player. Okay. And not that much extra work on, the DM's part.
Okay. Sam, what were you going to say about epic boons?
So I always forget about them because they're the biggest problem with them is that they're supposed to be level 20. Things. I think that there should be lesser versions of boons
instead of epic, just okay boons instead of epic.
Yeah. Well,
average boons.
In Avernus, there are. Oh god, I'm dying again, aren't I?
Hell yeah.
In Avernus, there were boons that the devil could give you. I think they were literally called devilish boons.
The charms.
And devilish charms or whatever. And I was like, okay, all right, that's cool. I'm going to give one of these to a player. And they're going to be the agent of one of the, some kind of devil, at least. Isaiah and I, we hashed it out.
Yeah.
Right. But charms are different than boons, right? Because charms are temporary usually.
No, they are They are literally directly compared to boons.
Yep.
Huh. I always thought charms were specifically like, you know, you do this and then they work like a certain amount of days.
You're thinking, so the charms in the DMG, yes. Those are different than the charms that were in Avernus.
Yeah, and also you might be thinking of like the Chewinga can give you the little charms.
Maybe, yeah.
What was I going to say? It is worth noting, though, that the charms in things like Avernus, they're not temporary in the sense that they will wear off, but they are temporary in the sense that if you do not have the charm on you, because it's an item, then you can't do the thing. Like, I know Paz's charm was to, like, speak and read and write all languages. If he didn't have the necklace with him, he wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff.
Right. Okay.
That stuff does create some funny situations, like when you're like, yeah, they'll never be able to speak like deep speech, and then they turn around and you're like, hey, how you doing? I heard what you said, and you're like, oh no.
A very awkward mind flare shows up
in a different language.
You called a bitch.
Yeah, it would be nice if there was some sort of
because like.
Why aren't there mini feats? Come to think of it,
I don't know. But like, so I posted two of the ones that really caught my eye. My favorite being the boon of skill proficiency, which just gives you proficiency in all skills.
Yeah, that's just wild.
It's pretty ridiculous.
You're like, I'm just good at everything.
I'm just really good at everything. Why? Because I did a quest, and you're like, excuse me?
Because God said yes.
Yeah, and then like, there's the boon of recovery, which just lets you recover half your hit points. And I was, like, my first thought was, wow, if a barbarian had that, they would just go nuts.
Yeah, pretty
it's
much.
Just like, I mean, when you have resistance to damage, you're basically doubling your health pool. And then when you use boon of recovery in tandem,
you're just a god.
You are just a very, very beefy boy. Ugh. I think there's another one that increases your health by 40 as well, which is like Jesus.
Yeah, the boon of fortitude.
Mini boons and mini feats would be nice. And it's kind of funny too, right? This is the part that's really like, all right, this is where it gets stupid, right? Because you're like, oh, there's no mini feats. And then you kind of think about it, and it's like, actually, they're just not labeled as such, right? They're all lumped in the same bag, but when you think about it, there are some feats that are just not as good as other feats, and they kind of are, like Actor, right? The Actor feat is
Why did you say actor like that? Actor.
I'm an actor because I'm an actor. I don't know. Good question. Because acting is a fine and beautiful art passed down to the generation. I don't know. Anyway.
Armstrong generations. What?
Yeah, the Armstrong generations. Exactly. It's like you look at the actor feat and you're like, this is not really like it's a feat, mechanically speaking, but in terms of its like usefulness compared to other feats, it's kind of a mini feat, right? So it's like
stepping into that flavor versus
exactly. Why didn't they mark them as such?
Optimal. There we go.
Like imagine if you would, every 2 levels you get a mini feat, and then every 4 levels you get a feat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or something like that.
Feat.
Pathfinder kind of does with like this. It's like, is it either skilled feats or something where it's like you get a specific racial feat at 2 levels, and then the adventure big feat at like 3 or 4, like 6 levels.
Again, feats
not going to really comment because I'm so far. Like, I literally have not looked at Pathfinder for like
been a hot minute. Yeah,
at least half a year.
So that's why it kind of reminded me when you're saying it. It's like, oh, why not? A mini feat every shorter distance levels, and it's like, I think that's kind of what Pathfinder does.
So again, though, the way Pathfinder handles feats is so different that it's not like, it's kind of hard to compare. It's weird because so you might be thinking of, I don't know about 1st edition. I've only really looked at 2nd edition. You might be thinking of the class feats versus the skill feats.
Maybe that's might be mixing it up.
Yeah, so Pathfinder kind of cuts them up. They have like class feats, skill feats, and general feats. Oh, and they have ancestry feats too. Oh, that's interesting. So yeah,
maybe that's why.
Pathfinder kind of chunks them away. So like fighter feats, right? If you're looking at a fighter, I'm looking at the fighter page. If I look at the fighter feats are kind of like what would be a class feature in D&D. But then the general feats are a little closer to feats in D&D. And then ancestry feats are kind of like the abilities you get from your race in D&D. And then skill feats, I don't really know what I'd compare. They might be kind of like a proficiency thing. I'm not really sure.
I think that's what they are.
Yeah,
like crazy.
So that might be what you're thinking of in terms of how they're broken up, because they're broken up by very distinct things, which is interesting and a cool idea, but definitely something you would need to do from the bottom up, and not something that would work. Probably not a thing. I mean, almost certainly not a thing you could just graft on to the game as is. So, yeah.
I mean, you'd have to do some restructuring of feats in general to have stuff like that work.
Yeah.
I just looking through the list of boons again. The boon of immortality just completely dicks on any of the classes that have the level 20 feature of you're immortal.
Yep.
It's just like,
which I think it's only the monk and the druid.
Monk and druid,
right?
yeah.
Have you seen? So one of my personal favorites is the epic boon of peerless aim. You can give yourself a plus 20 to a ranged attack roll you make. You can use once you use this boon, you can't use it again until you finish a short rest.
Oh my gosh.
Can you just imagine you're like LOL, LMAO, Lamau. Can't miss.
Or you take sharpshooter, you use your boon, you're still at a plus
15.
What? Yeah, it's so dumb.
So clarification, the skill feats in Pathfinder are literally tied to the skills. So you have athletic skill feats, arcana skill feats, deception skill feats, diplomacy skill. So they're literally tied to skills.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, it'd be like if you got feats for your proficiency. Which is interesting. And then general feats are general feats in Pathfinder are the closest you're going to get to the way 5e's kind of doing them at the moment.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. That's what I meant where like Pathfinder uses feats as its like primary mechanic. They've baked it into everything in the game. So it's such a different thing. It's cool and interesting, but yeah, you can't really compare them because the way they handle it in Pathfinder is so different.
Oh my god. There's an epic boon that gives you another 9th level spell slot.
Yes. No, the boons there are some that are like, okay, that's kind of all right. Then there are some that are like boon of invincibility. When you take damage from any source, you can reduce that damage to 0.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if the fucking Great Worm just looks at you and says, "Dolet," and it just blasts you as hard as it can, and the smoke clears and you're there like, "Not today, fuck boy."
That's also on a short rest, by the way.
I don't think I will.
Exactly.
It's literally like a short rest too.
Oh my Christ.
Yeah. It's great.
Also, if anyone's out there running epic level games, good on you, man. Good.
You're a fucking champion.
Yeah. You're a stronger person than I.
To like drive home my point, and to like, I think this will clarify what I was saying nicely. So you know how we have Battle Master Fighter, which has maneuvers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of the fighter feats in Pathfinder are essentially just maneuvers.
Right. Well, same in 4th edition, like some of the feats.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Action Surge was a fighter feat.
So like one of the fighter feats, Power Attack. You unleash a particularly powerful attack that clobbers your foe and leaves you a bit unsteady. Make a melee strike. This counts as 2 attacks when calculating your multiple attack penalty. If the strike hits, you deal an extra die of weapon damage. I'm pretty sure the fighter in D&D has that exact ability. It's just you get your superiority die as the extra damage. So yeah, that's what I mean. Like stuff that's like class features or feats in 5e are just all of that is lumped into one big thing that is features for Pathfinder, which adds a lot of customizability, but a lot of potential homework too. Kind of like Sam was saying. So cool, but also sometimes a lot. So, pros and cons, I guess.
Right.
Anyway, continue, man.
No, I'm just I'm just interested in this. So, I guess Josh, I know you said you looked at the Kryn UA or the Feats, and Sam, Isaiah, you guys haven't, right?
No.
So,
I have not.
So, like, one of the things that came out in it was this idea, like I said earlier, the whole, free feat at level 1 and then free feats at level 4, but it's like a heavily curated list. And I've been bouncing back and forth where it's like, could this be a cool, like, house rule to do in the future? Like, oh, yeah, it's like, yeah, your players are going to be kind of strong, more strong than normal. But it's kind of a cool thing. And the 3 feats that they picked for the first level free feat aren't honestly bad options. Like, it's kind of like out of all the feats.
Wait, Matt, Are you saying they're mini feats?
Well, I don't know. Well, I wouldn't even say they're mini feats. Like, the 3 that they picked.
No, I know. I'm just saying that reinforces my point of there should be mini feats.
Right.
In a funny way.
So the only issue with the whole mini feed thing that I think, at least coming from someone like, for 5e stuff, would be, oh, it's not as streamlined. Oh, it adds too much crunch into the game. Oh, it's all these options going to confuse new players. So
it's really not that much crunch, though.
I know. Like, this is like, I would like it, but I feel like this is what game companies and like most newer fans are going to be like.
You know what I'm gonna hit you with, Matt? You know what I'm gonna hit you with? Are you ready for this? Are you ready?
The optional thing again?
Guilty Gear round 2, boys.
Oh God.
Feet cool. Give feet.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Actually,
no, I need you to cut that.
In all
give
seriousness,
me that specific clip.
What?
What?
What'd you say?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it.
Honestly, as an actual response to the question, yes, the UA thing, the Heroes of Kryn, you get a feat at 1 and a feat at 4, and you get it through your background. Super fucking dope. I'm even okay with the curated list. I think that's fine. It also makes backgrounds more important, which is nice because I think they should be, and you don't have to forego any ASIs to get said feats. So yes, feat cool. Give feat. Down for that. More feats. Yes.
Okay, I was actually going to ask, what do you guys... So, like, I do this for sure, and I wanted to know what you guys think. Whenever I run, like, one-shots or mini campaigns for standard 5e, I always tell people, like, everyone can take a feat at level 1 if you have a racial, like... And yes, this is kind of unfair, and I understand that there's some argument here, but it's usually, like, it's limited to a racial feat unless your race does not have one. And that can lead to some people being like, but I want to take this. And I usually am like, I don't give a fuck.
I think what I end up doing was I just say, all right, everyone gets a free feat at level 1, doesn't matter, except human variants are banned and the customized origin, the basically human variant with dark vision.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck those two. No, like, it's everyone just pick a normal human and you get a free feat, the end.
Yeah, literally, Isaiah, you're restricting it too much. Just say you get a feat at level 1. Fuck it. Just hand it out. I get what you're getting at with the racial feats and stuff. Fuck it. Just let them have it. Just don't even have the, don't even make the fight. I mean, that's literally what Sam did for our game, right? Sam said you could take a feat at level 1. That's why I have the healer feat, Yep. So it's like...
But I have heard of that before, like people just doing, yeah, if you pick a feat, if it has a racial feat, you get that. You pick a racial feat at level 1, unless your race doesn't have free.
The problem is the amount of races that there are now compared to how many races got racial feats is such a big disparity that it's kind of doesn't work anymore.
It's true.
Or you can limit your game to just player handbook stuff.
Nah.
You could, but a lot of people won't like that.
The races from player handbook. Not the classes, but just the races, which I know a lot of tables actually do too.
Okay, Matt. So like you say races, but what about like the sub races, like Duragar?
The Duragar.
Well, that's I don't know because again I don't do this. The Duragar is great.
Shout out to Grimjack and the Schmuck Squad. I love you guys.
But but yeah, like it's not something that I do, but it's something I've heard a lot of people end up doing at certain games because they're like, I don't want to. I'm teaching a bunch of new players. I don't want to confuse them, so I just tell them only pick the races from the player's handbook. Just deal with that because it's like again, there's like a fuck ton of creatures to play in D&D now, so I can understand like the new player being like, oh.
Yeah, well, so Matt, I think the important thing that you just said right there is for big like starting players.
Yeah,
because like
important distinction.
Yeah, because I would do the same thing if people are running the game for the first. I mean, honestly, I just let them play whatever race they want because I've done this twice where I've run for like a full party of completely new people, and people are like, "Can I play a dragon? Can I play a this? Can I play a that?" And being like, "Well, it's sort of in 5e, but like it's kind of different, or you might find it a little difficult." And they're like, "I want to try it anyway," and then that rule kind of just goes out the window because it's like, it's harder to debate with a starting player who doesn't quite get the rules or the flow of the rules versus someone who's played a few games and it's like, okay, guys, like I understand that everyone wants to do their cool builds, but we're gonna limit it to like. Only like if you're like we're doing like a Feywild game for whatever reason, like limit it to Fey creatures only. So like elves, halflings, gnomes, shit like that. Please do that for me. Yeah,
I think it's so hard because even if you're doing it for the new players and you're like, okay, you're gonna limit what you can choose because you guys are new players. The problem you're gonna run into is then they're gonna be like, well, why? And then you have to try and explain the game to new players that haven't played the game yet, so they're not going to understand what you're explaining, and then you get into this crazy circular situation. It's just like kind of a mess.
So hold on. As a person who has run countless games for newer players and is currently running one, I'm mentioning my Monday game again. Yeah, I find that it depends on the player as well, because there are certain players that don't want to read into the book and then misunderstand something and then do something. There are players who want to ask a lot of questions, and I actually prefer those newer players because they're like, well, can I do this? Can I do that? Is this possible? Is this part of the rules? Oh, I forgot to do this. Is it possible? Like, they just ask questions like a Gatling gun. And then there are players who don't do that and they learn very slowly, or they learn by reading the book over and over and over again. And it's like, it's hard to limit stuff to newer players because you don't know how they play. They don't even know how they play, but they do know how they learn. So I think limiting newer players to only certain things is difficult. It's case by case basis.
Yeah, that's fair. Although I think it's like, for me, it's never been the asking questions that's been a problem necessarily. It's been the but why. It's like, oh, can I do this thing? And then you'll be like, it could just be like, well, no, because there's no rules for it, right? It's like, oh, can I attack and then like, can I like grapple somebody and then shove them to the ground and then stab them twice? Like, it's like, well, no, because you're level 1 and that doesn't work with the action economy. And they're like, but why though? And it's like, well, because if you're level 1,
because you don't get to be that cool, Steve. Shut up. God damn it.
Well, it's not even that, because it's like, well, there's a progression to this thing. Like, you kind of have to go based on the progression, and that can be really, I don't want to say annoying, because like they're valid questions, right? Because D&D and other RPGs are always pitched as you can do whatever you want, and then someone breaks it to you that you can't
until initiatives rolled.
Yeah, and then you kind of have to be like, well, you can do kind of whatever you want, but like not in specific situations. Ultimately, I agree. Like, it's really hard to limit things, but it's. If people were just like inquisitive, then I'd be like fucking fantastic. But I have not. I've had more than inquisitive to where it gets frustrating. It's like, just trust me on this, please.
Yeah, just work with me, Chief.
Yeah.
It's this way because I said it's this way. Smile.
Because I said so. Fuck
yeah, I mean,
go to bed.
That's what it comes up to, and I always feel like a dickhead for doing it. But eventually,
sometimes you just gotta go mom mode and like, because I said so. Now go to bed. Fuck off.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I usually try to give like a brief explanation as to why you wouldn't be able to do something, or say, hey, you can do this, and then if you succeed with that, we can go further down the line. Like using specifically like the grab someone and stab them a couple time example, like you can grab them and try to hold them, and if you succeed with that, you can then try to stab them.
You could also just describe that fictionally as your attack. Just move on with your life.
Yeah. But newer players don't generally know that's the thing.
No, I know, but I'm saying like you as a GM could sort of do that for them and describe it fictionally, and then but actually like it's just an attack roll and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, you can do a whole lot, but yeah, I just there are so many things that you can do for your players to make the experience, newer players I should say, to make the experience more informative. So like, as much as I hate travel, I have been teaching my new players about travel and how it works and all the rules behind it. And they're fairly quick on the dime. But last session, one of my players asked me, "Oh, hey, I forgot to mark off rations. How much did we spend?" And I was like, we'll just say that you bought some more rations because you did go to the store." And like just mark off this much or mark off this many rations if you don't feel like buying them. So it unfortunately is a system where you just have to be patient with them. And yeah, their questions can be annoying. I'm not going to mince words. Sometimes there are questions that are annoying, but like I'm not going to get mad at you for asking me for the 10th time, how do my spells work? Because you're still learning, And if it were like 30 sessions later, I might be like, all right, bud,
listen, pal,
we've been playing for a while now. We play once a week.
Get your shit together.
You are an experienced player now. You are no longer new. Please learn how to control your spells. I even made a handout for you so you don't have to ask me no more.
Yeah, I do be.
But like, it's unfortunately a thing that, and feats are one of those things where I've had players, one of my new players was like, hey, well, I guess he's not new. He technically started in like 2 campaigns around the same time. Because he asked me to help him build his character for the other campaign. And I was like, okay, we can talk about this. And he was like, do you think it would be really annoying if I took this feat? Like, I know it's supposed to be super optimal. I think it was Polar Mastery, and he was talking about taking Sentinel down the layer. Yeah. And I was like, no, if anybody gets mad at you for playing your character the way that you play your character, then like, they can go fuck themselves. Take what feats you want, whether it's optimal or not, and just, play the game. That's my PSA for new players. Play the game the way that you want to. Ask your GM for help.
Wait,
just play.
Sam, might you say game cool?
Oh my god, fucking Christ.
Game cool? Playing cool?
Matt, please take control of this back.
Yeah, I mean, in conclusion, give your players feats at level 1.
Yeah.
Because they're fun. Yeah. And customization is good. I think the reason in particular, like jokes aside, the reason I really like the idea of feats at level 1 is because there's not that many. Your customization options to making your character different from another character in 5e is much more limited than it is in other games, and feats is a really, really good way to get some of that customization. Huh?
Like especially at level 1. Level 1
is
not
hella at level 1.
Because everyone is super similar. Like even if it's like, hey, like take a feat from this list, you're still giving your players another reason as to why their character is unique in comparison to everybody else.
And I mean, I guess you don't have to do this, but I bet you a lot of players do this. I know I did this, where that feat can also add to the flavor of your character and like throw them out a little bit. Because when I was making Haven for our campaign, and Sam was like, okay, y'all can take a feat at level 1. I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, I have no fucking clue what feat I want to take. And then I was like, I'm looking, I'm scrolling, I'm thinking, and I saw, or I don't remember what jogged the thought, but I was like, oh, we don't have a healer. Like, we don't have anyone with any kind of reliable healing that can be dished out. I could maybe take the healer feat, and then I look at the healer feat and I'm reading it. I'm like, all right, the healer feat's pretty cool. It's fun. I'm going to be a sorcerer in the back line most of the time anyway, so I should be able to like run to the front, get somebody up, and then back off real quick. that's cool. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, why the fuck would I have the healer feat though? So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how the hell do I justify this random orphan kid who got magic powers from a flump? Like, how do I justify this nerd kid with sorcerer powers having the healer feat? I was like, oh, you know what? He helps the nurses at the infirmary at the orphanage. And that was like his thing that he did as like work when he was at the orphanage, is he helped the nurses all the time. So he got really good and familiar with like how to apply, applying bandages and like different little remedies you could use for plants and stuff. I was like, oh yeah. And so that's not something I would have ever thought of, but it sort of expanded the idea of my character a little bit. And now I have this nice little backstory about how, oh yeah, Haven also is kind of good with like herbal remedies and shit or whatever, because of this little piece of his background. So you can.
I also like it when people take feats for similar reasons, but for reasons that were found in play rather than just level 1 as well.
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, it can help to expand the the narrative of your character, and that's not a requirement, so not everyone will do it, but it can be interesting. And giving your players the option to take a feat at level 1 helps you do that.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, Matt, we completely disregarded you entirely.
Yeah, it's all good.
Mr. Host Man.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, we were talking about getting feats at level 1 with the UA and all that.
Yeah, but Matt started talking, and then
those backgrounds were very cool.
Yeah.
Not actually not joking. Like, they were legit.
Yeah. And like again, three bonus feats that they give you level 1, like literally, and this is going back to what I was originally trying to think. It's like, if I wanted to implement this, would it be like the first feats are the limited ones, and then the 4th level ones are the normal, like pick whatever the fuck you want? Or do I make that a curated list as well? And after thinking about it for so long, I think honestly just doing the free feat at level 1 thing is probably the best option. Because as cool and as like neat as a free feat at level 1 and a free feat at level 4, but like either one list being heavily curated or both lists being heavily curated and stuff and like limited to the players, I don't know. I feel like it's like, it's less working on me as a DM to just be like, fuck it, pick a free feat level 1 and there you go. But it's also like, all right, then I have to go through the feats and see which ones I put on what lists and all this shit. And it's like, because that was the other thing that for a while had me thinking. It's like if I wanted to put a level prerequisite on all the feats, and then it's like, all right,
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And it's like, all right, how do I fucking justify Warcaster being only level 4 players can pick this, but tough feat anyone can, like level 1 players can pick? Because that's what they have here as one of the free feats of level 4 is Warcaster and Sentinel. So it's like, all right, so I have no basis to go on. It's like, it literally just be me going
judgment.
Like, it's like, all right, lucky feat, nope, only level 20 can pick that, fuck you. And just
well, and it is worth pointing out, it's like making a value judgment on the feats being like you're making a value judgment and saying, okay, I think Warcaster is a level 4 feat, which that one's maybe a little hard to argue with. Warcaster's very good, but like, it's also worth pointing out that, part of what makes designing for a tabletop game tricky is that every table is different. So Warcaster might be really, really, really strong at your table, but it might be really garbage at someone else's table because they're just not playing in such a fashion that Warcaster would come up a lot, whatever that might be.
Right.
Maybe the DM has a homebrew rule where concentration spells, like, you don't have to worry about concentration. You like, maybe the DM just says ignore which is crazy, by the way. Don't do that. But let's just say
generous DM that is.
That would be really dumb. Don't do that. But let's just say for the hypotheticals, the DM's like, all right, concentration doesn't matter. Then suddenly Warcaster is devalued. So it's like, is it a level 4 feat still? So that's the other part of it, is like, there's this tricky situation of trying to value judge the different feats. I mean, I shit on the actor feat, but maybe someone's playing in like the type of campaign where the actor feat's going to be really, really helpful because they're trying to sneak into places all the time and pretend to be somebody else. Now suddenly the actor feat goes from a shitty level 1 feat to a level 5 feat because I'm using it so much and it's like super useful. So it's
like you're playing a changeling like spy or something from like Eberron. You're like going into different Dragon Mark houses.
Yeah. Suddenly the actor feat is way more useful. So it's really hard to make those value judgments. So making the curated list is probably not worth it. I also don't think they made that list. Honestly, when I was looking at it, I don't think that list was curated so much by level as it was by the theme of the background. So they put Warcaster at level 4, but I think they put it there at level 4 because the idea is the background, you're going from a squire to a knight who's like more trained or whatever. I don't think it's necessarily about the level so much.
Right. Well, the level 4 feat thing, it's a mixture between the specific feats from that setting because it's the Dragonlance setting. And like the reason they're doing this is because you're like, your character is hardened from war. So you're,
that's what I'm saying.
Stronger than normal heroes. And so I think that, they put that there because that could be for any of the special, mage schools or a knight or whatever. So anyone can benefit from Warcaster in that setting.
Well, no. What I'm saying, what I mean is, I don't think the abilities they chose to put in the list, I don't think they were basing it off of the level. Like, I don't think they were considering what level you are when you take it. I think they were basing it off the theme of the background and what what the background is about. And so Warcaster is there at level 4, not because it's mechanically better than tough at level 1, but because, you're battle hardened and you've learned to cast your spells in the thick of fighting. And because you're level 4, you've been through some fighting. So now you get Warcaster. I don't think they were really value judging the power level of the feats. No. I could be wrong, but it didn't seem like it.
It could be both, because again, some of the feats that you get that are specifically the Dragonlance ones are the ones that are, you must be level 4 and have the specific background in order to take it.
Right.
And then there are random ones like the Warcaster, your Sentinel, the Mobile.
They're saying you must be level 4, but I don't, well...
Right. I think it's I think it's both. I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest.
I would have to look at it again. But anyway, point being, for your game in particular, no, I don't think it's worth making the curated list. I think you should just say everyone gets the feat at level 1. Here's the question, though. And this is probably to everybody. So you say, all right, players, take a feat at level 1. Do you also say to players, take a feat at level 4?
No.
Yeah.
Ooh. Is that conflicting answers, I hear?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm not paying attention. If we're using those rules, then yes. But my brain fucking died for a second.
No. I'm saying, let's assume.
No.
Let's assume beginning a campaign. Mm-hmm. You're not using the UA rules. You just say, all right, players, take a feat at level 1. Just any feat you want. Doesn't matter. Do you also let them do that again at level 4?
Yes.
If they ask, then I would say yeah.
Isaiah says no.
You know what it is? I don't think it's a no. I think I saying no because I wouldn't think about it. Like, that thought wouldn't have come to me to give them another free feat. But if the party was like, hey, can we like all take another feat at level 4? I'd probably say yeah, to be honest.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. I mean, you just get a feat at level 4 anyways. So
I'm saying
free feat.
No, what I'm saying is you get the feat and the level 4 ASI. Like, the feat is free.
Oh, I mean, okay, all right.
That changes a little, right?
That's the point.
We're now giving players 2 feats for free.
Yes.
I think it depends. Honestly, it's not something I wouldn't think about. It's more so, I think that it's more so the intention I have for how long the game is going to be.
That's a good point.
Right. Well, actually, can I just list off the 3 feats they give you at level 1, and then maybe that might help a bit? Like, well, just for revity's sake. So like the 3 they specifically give, one is skilled, which is from the player's handbook, and you get 3 skill proficiencies. The other one is tough, so you get more health. And then the third one is one of the new ones specifically tied to this campaign, which is basically kind of like Magic Initiate, but more divine. It's literally called Divine Favored. And it's like you choose a cleric cantrip, then you get another first level spell, depending on what alignment you are. It could be from the Warlock spell list, the Cleric spell list, or the Druid spell list. And then you also get to cast Augury, for free once a day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to like homebrew this as like, all right, I want to do the free feat level 1 and level 4, but what if I heavily curate the level 1 feat? I think, honestly, out of all the feats they could have fucking picked, I think these are pretty good, and any character can benefit from any of them. I mean, granted, you could make the ruling of switching Magic Initiate out, or switching that Divine Favored one for Magic Initiate for a more generalized campaign.
Honestly,
but again, yeah.
My gut instinct is to say, don't curate the level 1 list, do curate the level 4 list. That's what I would say. Yes, and the reason I say that is because level 1, you're making your character, you're coming up with your character's backstory, you're thinking about what your character's about and everything. And if you have a cool idea for your character and there's a feat that fits perfectly for your character and would work great in your character's backstory, and then the GM says you can't take it at level 1, but you can get it later at level 4, so it becomes that awkward situation where, all right, my character starts at level 1, they're gonna become a lore bard, but they're not a lore bard right now, so I can't work that into my backstory so much. So they went to college, but it didn't sink in yet. And then when I hit level 3, they reread one of their notebooks, and now their College of Lore kicks in because they like double check their notes at level 3. It's that awkward situation, which is also why. Side note, that's why I think subclasses should all just be level 1 across the board, but that's a different topic. So yeah, I would say don't curate the level 1 list and curate the level 4 if you're gonna curate it all. Personally.
Okay, I know what. Sam, Isaiah, what do you guys think?
It's an interesting thought. I don't disagree with curating the level 4 list, but I don't know how I would personally go about doing that.
I think I would probably curate the list to each specific player, honestly. Yes, that's a lot of work, I know. You have a lot of time between level 1 and level 4.
True.
So I would probably have it just mulling over it the entire time we're playing. And then, yeah, I would curate it via player, possibly their class.
Okay.
It just giving them feats that make more sense to the specific player or that class that fits, makes sense. Especially because if you're giving them this free feat, they also have their ASI. So if they don't like the list, they can just go and take the other feat that they wanted as well.
Okay, here's a thought. This is a way you could curate the list without doing a lot of work. You get a free feat at level 4 on top of your ASI, but you can't choose any of the feats that increase a stat. About that.
Oh, interesting thought, but some of those are still pretty powerful.
They are, but you can't. That way you can't double down on a stat. Because I think adding potentially +3 to a stat at level 4, I think that's a pretty good bump,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the reason that giving a free feat at level 4 is a little iffy, because of that potential big stat bump with the ASI.
This is thought. Well, here's another thought experiment. What about instead of level 4, you give it to them at level 12 or 10? The change from low level to mid level to thematically, you can be this was their time skip training arc.
Give it on an off standard level.
Yeah,
level 6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as opposed to the whole 4, 8, 12 by default or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you could do that. I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. So all right, so you get a feat at level 1, and then you get another free feat at level 10.
Yeah.
Because you've shifted into tier 2. Yeah, that's not a terrible idea, actually.
The only issue I see is that like most campaigns end around like that like level 10
I mean,
area.
this is assuming you make it that far.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be. You could make it like the halfway point in a game, right?
Right, whatever your halfway point might be. Maybe it's level 5.
Yeah, so if Avernus is like level 1 to 13, you can do it at level 6.
6 or 7.
Yeah, level 7 if you.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I could definitely see that. Yeah, because I think the curated list idea is just like not worth the work, you know? I mean,
that's been what I've realized now after thinking about it for so long. Like since this UA's been out, I've been like, I want to try this, but like, how do I fucking, I don't know.
The curated list is really hard.
Yeah.
Especially because there's so fucking many feats at this point. It's like, bruh, you know? Yeah,
actually, side thing, because I think we mentioned this like earlier on in this episode, but like the idea from like 4th edition, the older editions of like classes having specific feats, and then what 5e did and stuff, like, I don't know, like, because in Tasha's, they came out with magic items specific for certain classes.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they did that with feats specifically, and like they come out with like 2 or 3 feats per class.
Matt, we already talked about that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kind of like, again, the gears are turning, so now it's like coming up.
No, we talked about this like 30 minutes ago though.
I know, but I'm saying like how would you implement like that?
Go over it again real quick, just so I can like ensure I'm collating this correctly.
Feats tied to classes. You can only take this feat if you're a fighter. You can only take this feat if you're a warrior.
I know we talked about it earlier, but like
That would be a lot of work just because there's so many, and then you have to go into the question of, all right, well, do these overlap? Do these overlap? Do these not overlap? I think Matt's implying what if Wizards did it, not what if we did it.
Right.
I think even for Wizards, it'd be a lot of work.
Oh, it's definitely work, but they get paid. They get paid to do it, so that they can spend the time to do the work.
Sort of. This is the 14 flying in ARR. Like, it's doable, but it's so much work that it's I would rather see it be put in other places, unless they want to be mad lads and do it for free. Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
So many people are gonna be like, what the fuck is Isaiah talking about?
I think what I would probably prefer to class-based. I mean, you could sort of make them class-based, but you'd have to do some. You'd have to limit them to stat prerequisites. So it's like, okay, like martial fighters can only take ones that would have to do with martial stats, and then casters can only do it with things that like are soft stats. That's probably the easiest way to do it. I don't necessarily agree with it, to be fair, but that's the easiest way I could see of doing that.
Right.
I think if Wizards took the time to make class specific feats, and they put it, that was like a big feature of the book that came out, or whatever, Xanathar's Guide 2 or whatever, or I guess 3, because Tosh is kind of Xanathar 2. If they did something like that, I think that would be interesting and probably be kind of fun for a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not super interested in the idea of class-specific feats, because I feel like part of the point of feats is that they're not tied to anything specific. They're a customization option that you can go in any direction you want with. So I don't want to tie them down quite like that, I feel.
Right.
It just doesn't. I think that space is handled enough by class features and subclasses and magic items and stuff like that. I don't think we need more of that necessarily. And right. There already are there, and like we said, there are the feats like Eldritch Adept, which lets you double down on your class more anyway. So like they kind of exist in a sense already. So yeah. No, I don't think. As I'm thinking about it, I don't think I'm a fan of feats tied to a specific class. I think I'm a no on that for the most part. Okay. I might change my mind in 5 minutes, so ask me later.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think now. Like, yeah, I don't know why. Like I've been so fixated on this whole feat way of thinking for like a while, because like with the Strixhaven stuff in the background, they're giving you feats, and now Wizards, they're trying to like, partially I feel like it's like they're trying to throw shit at the wall and just see what sticks. And it's like, oh, backgrounds have feats now. Oh geez. And you're like, okay. Yeah. It's like, it's cool. But,
I mean, it's tying a background to a feat is. I think the thing that's most interesting about that is just making backgrounds more relevant.
Mm-hmm.
God, I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say that it
Don't do it.
Cool.
God,
oh shit!
Damn it.
The backgrounds in the Heroes of Krynn UA were very thematic and cool. So yeah, kind of.
So background cool.
Yeah, yes. I mean, at least those ones,
Stop enabling him.
Well, it's also worth pointing out. It's also worth. Yeah. I think it's worth pointing out if you give backgrounds feats, you don't have to keep giving them stupid, shitty background features that don't do dick diddly. And then you could just give them feats instead, and then we don't have to worry about having this dumb ability from a background that doesn't fucking do anything 90% of the time.
I mean, I guess it depends on the campaign. Like, if you take the Sailor, and you're
here's the thing.
You're playing in a desert campaign.
I mean, look, yeah, does it depend on the campaign? Sure. But the depend on campaign argument can use for fucking everything. So, like, I don't like to lean in on that.
Which is why is the best argument. Thank you. I'll take my award now.
No, that's why it's the worst one.
Matt, I will make you a paper plate award.
What was Zigzag's? Hold on. I'm curious what Zigzag's back. I don't even remember what background I took.
I don't even tell you.
I'm assuming
entertainer. I think he was an entertainer, but I don't know for a fact. I think he was.
Oh, no. It was.
Yeah. So by popular demand, you could always find a place to perform. Usually in a usually an inn or tavern, but possibly with a circus. I read that so wrong. Usually in an inn or tavern, but possibly with a circus, at a theater, or even in a noble's court. At such a place, you receive free food and lodging of a modest or comfortable standard. Yeah, that doesn't help when the whole campaign was in hell. So yeah,
we just didn't run into enough taverns
in the beginning, and it caused a little bit of a kerfuffle. But it's fine.
Yeah, I used it for 5 seconds in the beginning, and then we went to hell, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna find any hell taverns anytime soon. We lived in our car in hell.
And then you did find the tent city. And then
we found Mahadi City. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but then we didn't stay there. So yeah, background features. Lamau, good joke.
Some of them
are hilarious.
I do actually like a lot of them.
Useful,
they just don't come up very much.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun flavor. They just, they don't get used. But if you made them features, or if you made them, God damn it. Wait a minute. I just realized they used that word 3 times. You have class features, background features, and feat features.
Oh my God.
Fucking get at Wizards. Change the words. This is the same problem as Bardic Inspiration and regular Inspiration. Fucking Christ. Why does nobody check this shit? Anyway.
You see, Bardic Inspiration's the class feature and Inspiration's the game feature. So they're just 2 completely different features of Inspiration.
Here's the thing. I agree about the Bardic Inspiration thing, but I don't know what I would call the Bardic Inspiration.
Bardic Boon!
No,
I've
I don't
said
like
this so many times.
I know you do, and I've never liked it. I don't like Bardic Boon.
But Josh, they already have another system of boons.
Yeah,
so now boon features are going to be mixed up with Bard Boon features.
What's wrong with Bardic Boon, other than the overlap with Epic Boon? But other than that,
I don't know, because it's not. Because I feel like a boon
I do like the alliteration,
is a favor that you grant somebody. Like. It's not.
Yeah, you're giving your homies a slap on the ass to tell them to go get them. How is that not a favor?
It's not. You're inspiring them. That's literally what it is. Like
Bardic buff. You could have just called it Bardic buff.
No, well, because that doesn't. That you're gamifying it. That's powers all over again.
A little bit, kinda, sorta. Bardic blessing. No, that.
Has anybody here played the? Has anyone here played the Borderland pre-sequel?
What?
No.
One of the features you can get, one of the features you can get as the Handsome Jack doppelganger is literally inspired, and he just says like a random quote, and it gives you a buff with the rainbow sparkly effects above your character that says "inspired," right above.
I love that shit so much.
It's so great.
I mean, just
Bardic booster.
Honestly, you No, let's stop
Yeah,
with
the vid.
alliteration.
Yeah, sure.
I
It'll
actually,
stop you from getting the vid.
I don't know. I just, yeah, I think we should just change inspiration.
Bardic Bazongas.
No.
Yeah, maybe the problem is
No, I
maybe
don't
we.
think you
Yeah,
should.
you know what? You're right, Sam. Bard is perfect. Inspiration is the problem. You're
Yes.
right.
I just forget inspiration exists.
I mean, yes,
When I'm playing
God.
and running.
Yeah.
it's hard not to.
No, I actually codified it into my game. Like I gave players rules for how to get it.
Yeah, I did too, and then my players don't use it. What?
Listen, why
That's,
would you
like,
have to use it
factually
when you
incorrect.
just
We
roll
do
like
use
me?
them.
You guys never use it.
I never use it because I just roll like a god.
You guys.
Anyways.
I use the
barely
shit
use
constantly.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
no, they do.
I use it more than
uses it quite
anybody else. That's for
frequently.
fucking sure.
You don't. But here's the thing: you don't use it as much as you potentially could when you know exactly when you're gonna get it back, and you don't use it as much as you could.
Well, the problem is always
because
right.
you know you can get it back on a rest, so it's like you have a reliable way of getting it back.
Yes, but
Yeah,
that's not
it's-
really the problem. The problem is, do I want to use it now, or do I want to use it later in this fight when I might need it more?
Yeah.
For example, if I fail a death save.
Josh, it's the issue of, oh man, I found this elixir. I better save this for the last boss when
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
need it.
yeah, it is. I mean, yes, there is.
Oh
some
God,
of
I do that shit all the time.
Anyway,
Yeah. Feats.
Bardic
Feats.
Blowhorn.
Oh wait.
No.
No, no.
Bardic
Let's
features.
Stop with the alliteration. You're hurting yourself. Bardic feats. Anyways.
Yeah, better be. Oh man.
Wow.
I'm still on the bar. I'm still
Let's
trying to think of a better
Let's-
name for
let's-
Bardic
let's try to-
inspiration.
Yeah.
No, I don't
But,
think we're gonna find one with Bardic inspiration.
I guess trying to wrap this up with some tinfoil and hand it off as a Christmas gift to somebody.
Okay. I have the perfect wrap up for you, Matt.
Oh, sick.
Eat cool.
Oh my
Nice.
god. Nope. No, we're not wrapping it
Well,
up
no,
like that.
I actually want it because I know Isaiah mentioned it earlier, or kind of, but like, what are you like? Just general like favorite 5e feats? Just
Bro, I don't fucking know.
oh, okay.
Hold
no
on.
idea.
Let me give it to you. Let me give it to
The
you.
one that gives you Misty Step.
The one that
I hate you.
there's a
I don't. Is there
I
one?
think
That, so the
there's a
fate.
couple.
Oh,
There are
Fate
two.
the
Touch.
Fey one.
There are two.
There's two. Oh,
Well,
Yeah, there are two.
what's the other?
yeah, I know it's
One's
Fey.
just better.
Oh, the elf, half elf, or no? One of them.
So one of them requires you to be an elf. The other one doesn't, but they both give you Misty Touch. Misty Touch, Misty Step.
Misty Touch. Misty Touch.
Bardic
I'm
Touch.
gonna touch you from really far away.
Call it Bardic Touch.
Touch my feet, Misty.
No.
What?
Let's.
Why, Matt?
Bardic Touch reminds me of Bad Touch.
Sorry.
Let's
Wait,
see.
is bad touch what you call chill touch?
No.
Oh.
No, I call that shocking grasp.
What? No,
All right.
chill touch is a
All right.
different spell.
Motherfucker.
Isaiah, what's your favorite feat?
So if I were to give it a top 3 in no particular order, I'd
Watch
have
him.
to
Oh, I bet I know one.
telekinetic, because having the force is fun. It's not going to be lucky, but I do really like Gunner. And I'm
Of
a
course.
particular fan of dual wielder.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say
yeah, dual
observant.
wielder.
Observant
Yeah,
has
dual-
allowed me to do some dumb shit. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like my fucking 28 passive investigation.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, one of my players had that shit too, and he had like a 30 passive perception. It was nuts.
So fucking funny.
Nice.
It
But, like,
really
I
is
can't-
GM's bane, where the GM's like, roll to investigate. I'm like, sir, I have a 28. I don't got to roll for shit.
I made the joke where like the player's like, all right, your eyes are just like gigantic Powerpuff Girl eyes. They're just like the big disc.
Yeah.
They just
permanently,
absorb
like-
all information at all times.
Seriously.
Oh my-
Jesus Christ.
Whenever we used to do that shit, and Brett was playing with us in our campaigns, he would just go, I see everything. Oh my god. But
Yeah, Observant's
no.
a good one.
Observant's very good. I mean, if we were just going to keep listing off particularly good. Well, all right. Actually,
He said pick one. You already
I mean, it
cheated.
doesn't
No, I
matter.
know.
It
I know.
could be top 3,
What
top
if
10.
I
don't
want to
give a
put
shit.
my choice in?
I don't give a fuck. I want to
But you-
shout,
but you
shout a feat out that I feel like
I
is
thought
really
of
cool
one.
that no one ever talks about. I feel like, and it's Revenant Blade. Revenant Blade is fucking
I love
awesome.
that.
What does it do?
It gives you proficiency with the double-bladed scimitar, gives you a +1 to your strength or dex, to a max of 20, and when you're wielding a double-bladed scimitar, gives you a +1 to your AC. The double-bladed scimitar also has finesse.
Well, yeah, so the reason that one's not mentioned is because it's a racial feat tied to Eberron.
Yeah, but like no one ever really does the like. I feel like almost nobody does the setting specific feats and like, no, you can't use this, not never. Most people I've seen don't give a fuck about that. Myself
right. I get that, but I'm saying that is the reason it's less well known is because it's tied to a specific setting book.
True.
So like, if someone sees Eberron as a book option and they're like, oh, I don't give a shit about Eberron, I'm not going to buy that book, then they're not going to see the feat, right? So
fair enough.
It automatically nichifies it by being tied to a specific setting. Like, yeah, you could use it outside of it, but yeah. Also, it's using a specific weapon from said specific setting, which gives it an even further niche. So I think
but what if I want to play Darth Maul?
Yeah, that's one way.
Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, I mean, look, next physical fighter character I'm playing, I'm taking this feat. I don't give a fuck.
Unless the GM says no. But
then the GM can lick my balls.
Ligma. What's that?
Ligma, sugma, fugma. How about that?
Yeah. So I think my answer's probably it's real basic, but it's probably Warcaster.
I mean, it's a good fight. It's really good.
Warcaster fun. It's a good one. It's like I'm looking at them. Dual wielder I do like too though, just because I like fucking whipping out the dual katanas or whatever dumb shit you're doing.
Hell yeah, bud.
So I do, dual wielder pretty good too. Grappler is also kind of fun, although not the most useful thing in the world, but still kind of fun.
Grapplers. So I actually did a one shot a while back where I bought these like specific grappling rules and like grappling holds off DM's Guild. I can't remember what the book is called, but it made grappling a lot of fun. It's all fun and games until you can actually power bomb somebody and have a mechanical like boon for doing so.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
funny. I'm not super interested in having like granular grappling rules. I'm okay with the grappling rules being simple because Grappler lets you kind of do enough that I'm like, yeah, I can work with that. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's fun sometimes to be like, I use my power bomb ability, but yeah, I don't need it.
It's all fun and games till you get taken to Suplex City.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right.
I don't watch wrestling.
Bam. Do you have a favorite?
Buddy, I already told you. The ones that the two that are basically interchangeable, but
I wasn't sure if you were joking or not, but I guess I should have assumed.
No, 100%. I really like the
known.
ones that give you Misty Step. No, because I think, well, one, they're Fae flavored, which is like one of my favorite things, but two, Misty Step. Just fucking Misty Step.
Is that your favorite spell?
To give the listeners some context here, to say Sam has gotten a lot of use out of Misty Step in my campaign would be a hilarious understatement.
Misty Step is a fantastic spell.
The amount of times.
Yeah, I agree.
Bro, you don't understand. Matt, the amount of times Sam has looked at the other players and went, good luck, fuckers, and just Misty stepped out of there. It's like,
listen,
it's getting hilarious, I'm not gonna lie.
I am 1, ranged, 2, Brett should not be next to me.
I get that. I'm just saying, you have left
Brett.
people to die many times.
I mean, it's always Brett,
very funny.
I'll be honest.
I mean, yeah, that's probably true. But it's still very funny.
Listen, when the casters get ganked, you leave. You don't stay.
Matt, do you have an answer to your own question?
I mean, honestly, a lot of the Tasha's feats, like, Crusher, Piercer, Slasher, like, I think those are fucking great.
They're fun ones, yeah.
I like Skill Expert. You gain a free skill proficiency, and then you get to make one expertise. That one's pretty good. Mm-hmm. I feel bad for the whole Poisoner one, because it's like, yay, poison damage, finally. It's not terrible. But it's also still poison damage, so it's like, oh no.
So many things have immunity or resistance to poison damage.
Well,
90% of the monsters.
Here's the other thing about the Poisoner feat. That's a good one you brought up, Matt. So I read the Poisoner feat and I'm like, oh, the Poisoner feat, that's super cool. Because I always loved the idea of like preparing special weapons and or like concoctions and shit for the fight. You know, like, oh, I'm gonna make this special poison to freaking kill Count Dankules. But but I read the Poisoner feat.
I want to meet this
and
Count Dankules.
I really wanted the Poisoner feat to, like, I don't know, have a list of poisons attached to it, or give you some sort of custom rules for how you could like make poisons, and it just doesn't do any of that. It's just like, you can add some poison damage, and you could like making poisons like a little bit cheaper or whatever. Like, it doesn't add to the poison rules in any way, which I was really disappointed with.
And especially there's a shit ton of different like crazy poisons in the DMG of like,
yeah, in the DMG, the book the players aren't supposed to look at, which is so dumb.
I know, but like,
all
if you have a player who
should be in the PHP, goddammit.
Well, some of them, yes, but then the other ones where it's like purple worm poison. It's like, okay, that one I can understand not giving to your players.
No, what you do is you put that in the PHP so that your players kill a purple worm, they look at it and go, oh, hell yeah, we're gonna make some poison out of this bitch. Why not have that? Let them have that. The poison should be
because
in the
you save that for
handbook.
when they fight it, and then you tell them after they fight the purple worm, and it's like, oh,
what's the difference between you telling them after or then?
Because it's a surprise.
Cool.
Oh, shut the fuck up. It's just as good because it is the exact same effect if you tell them after and they're like, oh, cool, or if they fight a purple worm and go, oh, sick, we can make a poison after we kill this. They're gonna be just as excited either way. It doesn't matter if it's a surprise or not. Get the fuck out of here.
Players should be able to read I don't give a fuck. Let the players read the DMG.
Oh, no. I know. Players totally can read the DMG. It's just when you put it in the DMG, players, especially players who haven't been playing very long, assume they're not supposed to, or they don't care about the DMG because they assume there's nothing in there for them. And then they realize all the magic items are in the DMG and suddenly they want to read the DMG. Funny.
Oops.
Yeah. Put magic items, the players handbook. I've definitely said this before. I will say it till I die. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the Poisoner feat I was a little bit disappointed with because I wanted it to like add to the poison stuff, and it just like doesn't give you any of that. It's just kind of like, it's like, yeah, you can buy 50 GP of materials to make like a number of doses, and then you can do poison damage on your knife or whatever. It's like, okay. Oh, and you're resistant to poison damage, which doesn't... Oh, no, sorry. When you deal damage with the poison, when you deal poison damage, it ignores resistances to poison. So, I assume that means it doesn't ignore vulnerabilities, though. So if something's immune to poison, you're still fucked.
Yes.
But you can overcome resistance, so that's nice. That's a good touch.
Yeah, I've actually had conversations with people of like when to, if at all, override immunity. Because I feel like if you do it at all, it should not be something that you can do sub-level like 14. I'm gonna be real.
Did you know that there is a boon that makes it so that you just go
ignore
through resistances?
God damn it.
Smiley face.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just funny. Like, man, really, the immunity thing is hilarious because I've lost count of how many things have poison immunity, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Whew.
Yeah.
Talk about the worst damage type in the game.
And then wizards be out here like, no, we didn't balance things around damage types. And you're like, are you sure? Sure seems like you did. You gave a lot of fire spells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, fire cool.
Yeah, right. I mean, the idea overcoming immunity is I'm okay with doing cool, powerful shit like that. I'm always okay with stuff like that as long as you have to spend or give up something. You have to like spend a resource or give something up to do it, you know? That's pretty much where I lie on those sorts of things. As long as there's a risk reward, you know, like this would be a dumb rule, but let's just imagine if the cleric had an ability or something, let's say probably fighter would make more sense. If the fighter has an ability where it's like, you can sacrifice half your current health to ignore the immunities of monsters for 1 minute. I'd be like, all right, sure, you're sacrificing something pretty big to get that, so that's fine, you know? Some sort of risk reward situation.
I see what you're saying. I personally wouldn't do it that way, but I see the logic.
I don't literally. No. The sacrificing half your health is a dumb way to do it. I just came up with something on the fly.
No. I know. But like, I don't necessarily think you'd have to give something up. I think it really should just be a level thing.
Well, it's like an ammo count type of thing, right? Like I'm also, even if it's just limited to like once a day or something like that, that's fine too, because that is essentially giving something up because you can only do it so many times. You know, it doesn't literally have to be. I give something.
Sort of. I wouldn't consider that giving something up as much as just spending a resource.
Right, but spending a resource is still a form of risk reward.
Sorta, yeah.
Because the risk is I'm spending it now so I can't use it later, and the reward is the ability. So it's still a form of risk reward. It's just not as drastic as one that would be like, you know, expending something.
Sure, but that still begs the question, how early would you give a player that ability?
Oh, I have no idea.
Just just spitball it.
I mean, above 10 probably at the least. But I don't know when.
Okay. What about you?
I'd say around 14.
14? Okay. Now what do you think?
Probably, 13, 14, 15. Like towards tier 3, tier 4.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's yeah. So I think it's pretty even across the board of like, definitely don't want to do it super early. Okay.
Yeah, actually, fuck. I'm sorry. This just like hit my brain too, as a like on topic, off topic type of deal. Nothing to do with the conversation we were just having at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you guys think about like? And I know I said we were going to try and wrap up, but the idea that feats in general, just as to close out with this, feats in general are technically they are an optional rule. Like, but 5e does not, like, and the majority of the community of Dungeons and Dragons does not fucking treat them as optional rules. They are now
honestly
baked into the game.
I don't even think the designers treat them as optional rules anymore.
No, I don't think so.
Not really. I mean,
not.
I literally forget it's an optional rule until someone mentions it because it's just so baked in. It's just there for everybody. Why would you change that?
I agree.
Right? And I think going forward for 5e enhanced or whatever the 5.5
5e.5e Redux Turbo Supermax Alpha Edition Plus.
Yeah, exactly. For whatever.
Street Fighter 2?
Like that's definitely going to be like a thing. It's where it's like, okay, yeah, we realized there was a optional feature in the last version, but now in this new super, sexy version, they're now part of the core game. And it's like, what? What are they going to change about it? Or if they're just going to leave it as is and just remove the optional in the text? Nothing will change.
I think they're just going to remove the optional from the text. Because this is the funniest thing about the way it was handled in the first place. They're like, okay, we're going to make feats an optional rule because, well, I don't know why they did it. I assume the logic they were getting at is we're making feats an optional rule because it adds a layer of complexity to building your character, and feats kind of had a bad connotation of making characters really hard to build and create in older editions. So we're going to make it optional, and we're going to design the game around them not being there so you don't have to stress if you don't want to deal with that extra complexity. And then when they actually designed the feats themselves, they didn't design them the way they worked in older editions anyway. So I don't really know what they were worried about, because as they're designed, they don't break things, or there's good feats and there are some feats, there are some feats that are good and some feats that are bad. That's fine. But it's not like you need to plan backwards from level 20 in order to make your character effective and make sure you pick the correct feats, right? Like, they were worried about that problem because the older editions had that problem, but they didn't design feats like that in the first place. So they don't need to change anything because they already solved the problem when they designed them initially. They just slapped optional on them because, So, yeah, I think they're just going to take the text away because why would you do anything else? They work fine as is.
And if you guys ever played in a game where the DM was like, we're not going to use this optional rule,
No, and it sounds so fucking boring.
Well, here's the thing, Matt. Every DM I've had is right here in this call, so no.
Lol.
No, I have not played in a non-feat game, no. I could do it, but I would be sad.
Yeah, that just sounds really boring.
I mean, here's the thing. If it's a new DM and they're like, I would like to try and... If they say, I want to just grasp how combat works as is for right now, so we're just going to say no feats, just so I can, learn and figure it out, I'd be like, okay, fine, I can make that concession,
Right, like if they ran like Lost Mines of Fendelver or like one of the like small like intro adventures, and then afterwards like, all right, I get it now, we can do feats.
Yeah, that'd probably be fine. I could deal with that. Or even if they said even if they're like, all right, I get it, but I still don't want to deal with feats. By that point, if you've already been playing for a while, you're probably like, okay, whatever. Like nothing changes. So yeah, I could see that consent. But if somebody like Isaiah was like, no feats in my game, I'd be like, what? Why? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. That'd be POV. You're a clown. Like
it'd be very. I mean, unless you gave a really good, like if you have a really good reason, I'm willing to make a concession for almost anything in a game as a player, but my initial reaction would definitely be nani the fuck.
Right.
It's the same thing as like restricting races or restricting classes. I'm open to the idea if you give me a good enough reason, but my initial reaction is gonna be skeptical.
Yeah, because it's just, again, it's so baked into the game now. It's like it'd be hard to like find a DM who's just like, yeah, no, I don't use this optional rule, or no, we're not going to use it.
I mean, although Matt, we do know one DM who said that.
Who?
Matt Colville.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you don't remember that?
No.
Yeah, so he did not allow feats in the Chain of Acheron, but the funny thing is he later admitted that he was a little bit wrong in that decision because he thought that feats worked like they did in 3rd edition, and he was like, man, they were a massive headache in 3.5. So if the game is giving me the option to just remove that headache, I am going to take it. And then he looked into it a little bit more and was like, oh, they use the same name, but they are not the same design.
That's so weird. Because you figured like if you're gonna like do something like that, you would have looked it up to begin with.
I think he just had like a horrified knee-jerk reaction, which is kind of fair because
true.
They were fucking something in 3.5. Like, it was kind of thing where you could actually just break your character because you chose the wrong feats, or like the wrong feats. You just fucked up, Feats in 3.5 were a little closer to how Pathfinder uses them, basically. So you could kind of like fuck up. So I could understand the idea of like, oh, this was shit in older editions, and this edition is giving me the option to say no. I'll take it, Like I see where you're coming at. Mm-hmm. But yeah, other than that, no, I don't know anyone who said that. And if you're out there, even if you are a new DM, maybe at least give the feats a thought. If your initial reaction was no, at least give them a thought. They're not as scary as you may assume.
If you still ban feats, let us know why in the comments below.
I mean,
send us an angry email or by carrier pigeon.
Let us know, but we'll clown you.
Exactly. You can tell us why you ban feats, but yeah, I mean, we might be a little judgmental. I can't promise that. And if you email us, I won't respond angrily. I promise.
Make sure it's in Comic Stand so we can fully just.
Matt, it's an email. You can't pick the top type.
Damn it!
Fuck.
Wait, you can't do that?
In the email itself?
Hold on, I'm checking right now.
It's not a thing. It's not a thing. Shut up.
Hold on. No, too late. I'm checking this shit now.
Anywho's, I guess, yeah.
You absolutely can change your
thoughts?
fucking font in an email. All right.
Oh, okay. Is Comic Sans there?
Shit. Hold on. Let me check again.
God damn it, Isaiah. It's
yes,
probably
actually, it is.
Oh my god. I do not don't email us in Comic Sans.
Specifically Comic Sans. Make sure it's
We can't
gigantic, colorful text.
Oh my god.
Highlight it.
You can find our
colors.
email on our YouTube if you're feeling spicy.
But yeah, anyone has closing thoughts on feats and why they like them so much? Again, no kink shame. All is welcome.
Feats are awesome because they let your character do things outside of their natural wheelhouse and let them feel more grounded and or complex as characters.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, extra character customization, I think, is always not always, but generally good and fun. And there aren't that much more work to deal with, so it's not like a problem. And also, yeah, the level 4 free feat thing, that might be up for debate, but give your players feats at level 1 for free. There's almost no downside, if any at all, TBH. So
yeah, and according to Wizards now, they're starting to slowly implement that via the background. Yeah. So
even Wizards is on board with that idea, so fucking go for it.
Yep. Yeah, but I couldn't have said any of that better myself. Thank you everybody for joining us today. And let us know what kind of feats do you like? You like big feats, small feats? You like really hairy feats? Oh wait, shit, wrong list. Hold on. I mean, do you like?
Why are you like?
Do you like actor? Do you like warcast?
That list. That was the one I was looking for.
That list.
Yeah. Totally not the other.
What do you think of feats, Matt?
Yeah, what do you think? You know what? That is another episode. Feats 2, Electric Boogaloo again.
Wait, no, hold on. You messed up. You're supposed to say feats cool.
No, that's your fucking thing.
Actually. Yeah. Actually, one last important thing.
Yeah.
You should go, if you're not, you should go subscribe to us on YouTube, because Brett has been making us some spicy little shorts that don't make it into the episodes but are quite hilarious. So you get a little extra content. Go follow us subscribe on YouTube. Every freaking platform uses a different word for it.
Like, subscribe, comment, hit the subscribe.
I don't give a shit about the other ones. Just subscribe. No. Just subscribe so you can see Brett's immaculate creations.
That motherfucking bell.
I don't even think the bell exists anymore. Does the bell even exist?
Hell yeah.
Is that still a thing?
I think so.
Okay.
I ignore it. I ignore it every time it's brought up. Anyway, yeah, folks.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the YouTube.
Follow us on Twitter and all the other socials.
No, just the YouTube. I don't care about the
just YouTube. Okay. All right.
Follow us everywhere.
All right, forget. Unfollow us on Twitter. Unfollow us on.
Hey, I didn't say unfollow.
Burn down the other platforms.
We're gonna close this out before Matt starts saying some blasphemous shit. Take us away.
He's the one that has to take us away.
My food. Yep. All right. Well, thank you everybody again, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
No, seriously, guys, what are your opinions on feats? Like, I really want to know. Like, no, just no shame here. No shame here. We're just men talking about feats. Brett, quick, fade us out. Fade us out before this gets worse.